Next topic in fourth unit is some of the common services which has been performed by the real-time operating system. In this diagram, you can see that the central part of any real-time operating system is a kernel, and that kernel is responsible for performing the operations or giving commands to the different modules. For example, device input output is there. Which input output devices are there? Keyboard. For example, this is one of the input device. Output device is light emitting diodes, liquid crystal diodes, and motors, for example. So the function of the kernel is in both software level as well as of the hardware level, because kernel knew that the instructions which are coming from the user's perspective, it gives it to the different modules. Those are responsible to drive keyboard kind of the input devices. Those are responsible to drive light emitting diodes, liquid crystal displays, and motor drivers. Means this kernel is giving instructions to the input devices and the output devices. Some complicated devices are there, like graphic LCD, which is having ability to put the pixel on particular screen location, then create some complicated graphics. So those kind of the input device, output device needs device drivers. So device drivers specifically written in a embedded C language to drive to that particular device. But until they receive a commands from the kernel, they cannot exclusively perform their own tasks. That's why kernel is a main software device. It is responsible for controlling each and every different module of the embedded systems real-time operating system. Kernel also responsible for managing the file system. There are fundamentally two file systems are present. First one is file allocation table, and second one is new technology or network technology file system. So these are the two systems where this kernel is going to manage the files. It can give user to create the file, to assign the attributes to it, like append, write, read, in this way. So this is all about the file system. As per debugging facilities are concerned, if we would like to check the output of a particular instruction while particular task is going to be executed, in those cases the debugging facilities can be utilized. Networking protocols like transmission control protocol, internet protocol, or user datagram protocol, dynamic host configuration protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. So these are few of the protocols may our embedded system utilize. So to handle the software related to these protocols, again it is one of the service of the real time operating system. So these are the fewer services, those can be or cannot be with reference to the application. If it is an sophisticated embedded system, if it is network enabled embedded system, then in those cases we use networking protocols. In those cases we use debugging facilities and the other components. If it is a standalone system having huge data uh, gathering from its sensors, if any data acquisition system is there, in those cases file system need to be incorporated into the real-time operating system. So this is a very small topic related to our services, common services of real-time operating system. Now, as per next topic is concerned, which is functions of the real-time operating system. So there are 4 to 5 functions, prominent functions. First function is task scheduling. Second function is interrupt handling. So as per task scheduling is concerned, we are again going to consider one example, that for example there is a task number 1, task number 2 and task number 3. As per priority is concerned, if this is having highest priority, this is having medium priority, this is having lowest priority. So in task scheduling, these tasks divided with reference to their priority and with reference to their time slicing. For example, this task 1 is having 100 instructions. It is a program of 100 instructions. And this is the second is a program of 70 instructions or statements of programming language, and this is of hardly 30 instructions, for example. So the time which is required to execute this is suppose 2 milliseconds of the time. This takes only 0.5 milliseconds of the time, and this takes only 0.1 millisecond of the time. If this is the scenario, it means that the scheduler should know, intertask scheduler should know that how much time is required to execute this particular task when it is going to be loaded into the system. Now, if this task is requesting first, then obviously scheduler load this task into its memory, execute it within 2 milliseconds of the time, and then it becomes in an idle state. Second scenario is that if this task R1 is requesting and this is secondly this task is requesting at the same time, in that case scheduler senses that which task is having highest priority. Now in this case, among these two, this task is having more priority as compared to the task 3. So it loads task 2 into its memory, execute it for 0.5 milliseconds, and then it unload it, and then it gives time to this task 3, it execute it within 0.1 millisecond, and then it unloads it. So this way the scheduling is been done. So this is considered as a task scheduling. This is considered under the task scheduling. Now as per interrupt handling is concerned, how interrupt handling works. For example, here we are having one function void main. Here we declare the variables integer I, and here we are writing down our routine program, and if interrupt number 10 is going to be asserted, so what our program counter does, when it receives the interrupt signal here, it goes to the interrupt service routine which is written for this interrupt number 10. Means our program counter is pointing to the first memory location of the instruction which is written for interrupt service routine, and it load it, it decode it, it execute it. So first instruction, second instruction likewise until it receives the return from the interrupt. So when it receives the return from the interrupt, when it execute return from the interrupt, it again goes to the second instruction which is just next to the interrupt instruction. So this way our interrupt service routine is addressed by the operating system. So this is our main program. Within the main program, if interrupt has been asserted, then it goes to the interrupt service routine written for that particular interrupt. It execute that routine, and once it find that return from that interrupt service routine, it again come to the next location that where interrupt has been called. So this way interrupt is going to be handled. In 8086 based microprocessors or microprocessors like 8086, 8186, 8286, it is going to be multiplied by 4. So this is the 40 is the hexadecimal address 40 is the hexadecimal address of the interrupt service routine. If this is interrupt number 11, so 11 multiplied by 4, so this is the 00x44h hexadecimal value. This is the location of the interrupt service routine. It has been written into the physical space, physical memory of the microprocessor. So this is about the interrupt service routine. So this is all about the task scheduling and interrupt handling. Now, as per next is concerned, inter-task communication is concerned, there are few objects in operating system. The very first object is a semaphore. Semaphore. We will see this semaphore in the last section of this particular unit. Then mailbox or message queue or mutex. These are few real-time operating systems objects where our two tasks can communicate with each other through these objects, so that there is a perfect synchronization in between those particular tasks and they cannot uh, interfere with each other, they cannot damage the resources of each other. This is the fundamental objective of these objects. So as per our inter-task communication is concerned, it is need to share the data or the signals. Now, just as I have mentioned that semaphore, queues and mailboxes, these are the objects. These tools prevent prevent the conflict between the task and their data. They ensure the smooth coordination between the task. Now, for example, good example is been given. One sensor task is sending a data and display task is using the message queue. So I am going to explain it with the help of example. For example, this is our embedded system. And this embedded system is receiving a data from one sensor. For example, pressure sensor is connected over here, pressure sensor, and it is measuring a pressure, and at the same time that pressure is going to be displayed on the LCD. This is the scenario. For example, means this sensor is connected to the input of the embedded system, LCD is connected to the output of the embedded system. So here embedded system is utilizing the memory, this memory. For example, this memory is going to be utilized by two tasks. One task is responsible for reading the pressure, and second task is responsible for displaying it on the LCD. So this way it is a two task, those are using only one parameter or one memory. So this memory is a shared resource for both. Now if there is a scenario that within 1 second, after 1 second pressure has to be measured and then it is saved into the memory, and another time this LCD is going to read the contents. Now if this is a scenario, suppose if LCD is continuously taking the control of the memory and it is displaying, suppose older version of the pressure, if it was 50 newtons 3 seconds back, but currently its value is changing, suppose it is 100 newtons, but it is still showing us 50 newtons because this resource has been already taken by the LCD display. So this should not happen. So that memory should be shared in such a way that value should be very correct. So pressure sensor's task is going to be write down the content of the pressure and then release that semaphore, release that resource, so that that resource can be taken by the LCD task, and then it can read the proper contents. Those are reflected on its display. So this is about our inter-task communication. So this way you can say that inter-task communication is possible in between the sensors task and the display task. Now, as per resource management is concerned, there are three types of the resource. One is a CPU time. How much time CPU is busy for performing particular task operation. How much memory it is using, and which memory locations, and which input output devices that particular task is using. So this comes under the resource management. RTOS allocates the resources efficiently to avoid the conflicts. RTOS is always trying to share the resources to the task those are having highest priority. If a particular task is holding the particular resource, then operating system's responsibility is that to release that resource first, means get complete the task function which is holding to that particular resource, and then come to some another task. So RTOS ensures that two tasks don't write on the same time. Like if two tasks are trying to write down something into the memory, then it is not going to be allowed by the operating system. So this comes under the resource management. Last one is the time management. Time management is very important because this is real time systems. That's why time is very important. Accurate timing should be followed for the execution. That's why in real time operating system, it is already estimated that these many tasks are available, and this particular task is taking this much amount of the seconds to execute that particular task. So that kind of the mapping is there in the memory of the real time operating system, and accordingly those tasks are going to be handled by that RTOS. So for that they uses the time delay routines. They set the timeouts, run the task periodically. It helps task complete within the strict time limits. If zero point 0.5 millisecond is essential, then within 0.5 millisecond that task need to be completed. This is the responsibility of the real time operating system. So this way, these are the some of the functions of the real-time operating system. This topic is quite huge as compared to the previous topics. That's why I divide this topic into two different sessions. In the next session, I am going to focus on the scheduling algorithms used in the real-time operating system.